ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Sarah, please call the roll call.
Mercedes Evans.
Here.
Thomas Fink. Here. Michelle Forbes.
Here.
Jennifer Hoover.
Here.
Tim Jackson. Here. Luisa Lasoa. Emily Smith.
Here.
Estelle Livelsberger.
Thank you. A quorum being present, will proceed. That brings us to our first period of public comment. If anyone wishes to offer public comment, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Yost. I am the representative from the Historical Society this evening.
I'm Mark Hoover, South 24th Street, and I'm just here to accompany my friend here. The reason we're here, next year, 2026, is the 250th anniversary of the sesquicentennial of the United States. I think as a historical society would like to be involved in some type of recognition of this event in Camp Hill. I don't know if there's been any plans. Talked a little bit to Mark first. He said nothing's really crossed the desk yet. So if there's anybody here that has any plans or has given any thought, probably not. We don't always think that far ahead, but it's going to require a little bit of planning. Doesn't have anything really super exotic, but we do want to put something on to recognize the birth of our nation and to recognize it as a historical society in this historic town. So if there's anybody here, I don't know who does what anymore. I used to be involved. I'm not now. If anybody's involved with things like parks and recreation, entertainment, anything that would be pertinent to that, if there's any representative here that would like to at least establish a dialogue to see if there's any potential for doing something initiated either in this council or through the Historical Society in order to bring this about. We can exchange phone numbers. Promise not to be too annoying, but we do want to get something going. Is there anyone here who has... I know you guys are busy and don't necessarily want to volunteer for stuff.
No,
but
I would just suggest that you provide Sarah Gibson your contact information,
Okay.
and then we can coordinate among staff, please.
All right, how do I contact her? I know, but you have through the borough office.
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, that'd be the first. Okay, then we'll establish that. Just keep in mind, we're planting the seed tonight because we hope for something to grow in the future that we can pay tribute to this great nation of ours. I mean, we did pledge allegiance to it, so let's at least recognize its birthday, okay?
Thank you for your public
Do
comment.
you have anything to add?
Right now, our main thought is out on the bypass, the pedestrian underpass of 27th Street. There's 2 large concrete facings. We propose that the words "Happy Birthday USA 250" and then either the American flag, our logo, the borough's logo, because it is two major highways, 11 and 15, and a commuter route. So it will be seen every day for quite a while.
And that's something perhaps we can get some students at the school to get involved with as far as, so that wouldn't necessarily be much cost involved. It would just be the students getting involved. So we'll be working on that, and I'll put my contact information to you. And please just put a thought to maybe there's anything you can think of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to offer public comment? Okay, that brings us to President's announcements. We have some information regarding a settlement agreement with a resident, and I will turn to our solicitor for an explanation.
Okay, great, thank you. So we've been going back and forth with counsel for Jeremy Redding and the trust. As of 4:43 this afternoon, we've kind of finalized some language for a remediation agreement. The high-level points for that are essentially Mr. Redding will agree to remove his fence within 60 days. However, there is a process by which he can submit a zoning permit for the fence within 30 days. We've worked with Colton. He can review that within 5 days with the goal of being, no later than 60 days, the fence is going to be removed, whether it's removed with no new fence going up or removed and an approved fence pursuant to the permit that Colton will review. I think Colton's already starting to work on that because he's probably tired of hearing from me and Liz on this agreement. But I think that we were finally able to get somewhere with both compliance and moving forward with an appropriate fence for that property.
Thank you, Lee. Is it appropriate for me to call for a motion to approve as explained?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second to approve the material terms of the remedial action agreement contingent on staff and solicitors' approval of the final language of the agreement?
So moved. Second.
Emily moves, Michelle seconds. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion to approve the material terms of the agreement is approved unanimously. Thank you. Moving on then to our manager's report. Sarah?
Good evening. We welcome our new community outreach and downtown coordinator, Beth Taylor. She's sitting right over there. Beth will be working approximately 30 hours per week, splitting her time between borough responsibilities and support for the Downtown Camp Hill Association. Our finance director, Jared Wolfgang, is leaving the borough for an exciting new position with the state. Jared has made huge improvements to all aspects of the borough's financial management during his tenure, and his successor will inherit an extremely well-organized system and a balanced budget. Our former auditing firm, Mayor Dussel, will assist in accounting functions until we can fill the finance director position, and Sammy and Tammy have already stepped up to take on extra responsibilities during this time, so please be extra nice to them. I'm excited to congratulate Audrey and the HRG team for the recognition of Seabrook Park as a green and sustainable park by the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society. I frequently hear from residents about how much they enjoy the new trail and facilities at Seabrook Park, and I know they will be proud to know that this community asset has been recognized with this award. Colton and I are working through the editing process for the update to the Borough Code. We are codifying the current and the existing code and more recent ordinances. We meet weekly to review the questions raised by our contractor, General Code, who has combined our existing codes with the ordinances adopted since the last codification. They are also ensuring that our code is up to date with current state and federal law. The Planning and Zoning Committee, maybe I'm stealing Tom's thunder. Planning and Zoning Committee will participate in the editing process, which we will finish by June. I was pleased to represent the borough at the Public Employer Labor Relations Advisory Service, PELRAS, conference 2 weeks ago. This annual conference provides legal reviews of current labor-related legislation and current best practices for personnel management. There were more than 600 attendees, and we listened to lawyers talk for 2.5 days.
I'm sorry.
But I learned a lot. It was packed full of really good information. Emergency Management Coordinator Bob Forbes and I participated in a comprehensive floodplain training presented by the Pennsylvania Municipal League. Bob has also completed all the requirements to become a Weather Ready Nation ambassador. The Weather Ready Nation program is sponsored by the National Weather Service to help communities prepare for weather emergencies, and you'll be hearing more about that moving forward. Our online registration system has now expanded to include the option to renew tennis passes. We have already had a number of residents, and it's growing every day, renew their compost facility access cards online, so we look forward to seeing how many residents will also use the new online system for tennis passes. So we're gradually incorporating new opportunities for online purchases into our system. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Moving on to our mayor's report. Mayor Simpson?
All right, thank you. First off, I want to report that this past Monday evening, Sergeant Carson O'Connor, along with 2 other officers, were in the process of attempting to arrest an adult male in the borough. The subject resisted arrest and attempted to disarm Sergeant O'Connor and violently fought with the police. The subject was subdued and arrested, but unfortunately, Sergeant O'Connor sustained a broken hand in the vacation. He's received medical treatment and expected to be on injury leave for 6 to 8 weeks. So, you'll notice in your packet this month we have there's two new reports, activity of special interest, along with training that was completed in the month of February. I just want to point out the activity of special interest. During February, there were a number of reports of theft from unlocked vehicles in the borough. We just want to remind everybody to make sure that you lock your vehicles, do not leave valuables in unattended vehicles, and don't leave the keys inside vehicles, which, believe it or not, happens a lot. So just want to remind everybody of that. On February 16th, it was a Sunday evening, the police department took a report for a missing person with intellectual disabilities. This person walked away from Barnes & Noble and was missing for over 8 hours. The fire department, police department, and other fire departments from Cumberland County, we proceeded to search for the individual, and she was finally located. And fortunately, the outcome was good, and she was fine, other than it was very cold that evening, but it ended well. Fire department-wise, the fire department ran 42 calls in February. We spent 59 hours on those calls. We just completed our CPR and AED recertification just this past Monday, and I want to thank Borough Council and Borough staff. The garage doors are done, installed, so thank you for including that in this year's budget. That's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, our engineers report. Mike?
Thank you. I have a few updates for you this evening. No action items. First update is for the Creek Road Pump Station. You may recall that we received a Commonwealth Financing Authority small water and sewer grant for that, and about $92,000 or $93,000. In working with Lester, we've made some changes to what we'd like to do in that scope, mainly related to putting a roof over the entire station instead of just the electrical panel, and then some other minor changes to offset the costs. We took that proposal to the funding agency, and they've approved it. So we're moving forward with the Creek Road Pump Station with that new kind of scenario in mind. Secondly, for drainage projects, Braemar Culvert, you may recall in February we talked about submitting a letter of interest to PEMA, who would then consider including our project in their application to FEMA to do a study of potential solutions to the flooding that's results from the Braemar Culvert there between 31st and 32nd Street south of Chestnut. We're now working on the application itself, and that's due the 21st. So we're getting that finalized, and we'll submit it by the deadline. Also related to drainage projects and grants, we're starting to work on a Commonwealth Financing Authority small water and sewer grant for upgrades to the culvert in Harvard Avenue between 30th and Deanhurst. The idea here is that there's an existing culvert that doesn't appear to have enough capacity, but it's in good condition. We wouldn't remove it, we would add a second culvert next to it to increase the capacity. So we'd like to get CFA to fund that if we can. Those applications are due April 30th, so we'll be back at the April meeting to request a resolution to file for that grant. So that'll be coming next month. The 2025 curb ramp improvements project is currently under design. We expect to have the project out to bid in April and to come before council at the May meeting to request approval to award that contract. The construction would occur between about June and August. Lastly, under Parks and Recreation, we've completed the survey work for Seabrook Park. There are several parcels that comprise Seabrook Park, and we're working now on a subdivision plan or a reverse subdivision plan to put those together. There's a provision in the borough's subdivision and land development ordinance whereby we can consolidate those without a full-blown subdivision plan that would have to come before this board. It would go to county planning and to staff. So we're preparing that now. The last two items in my report are also in Tom's Planning and Zoning Committee, so I won't steal his thunder, and I'll let him take those. That's everything I have.
How about Market Street?
Market Street streetscape is wrapping up. We need the contractor to come out and fix a couple of things when the weather gets better. There are a couple of panels of sidewalk that have cracked. There are also a couple panels of sidewalk that have heaved in the frost. We had a very cold winter, and when water freezes, it expands. That freezing water has pushed a few of the sidewalk panels up. We want to see how they settle out in the spring and if we're going to have them replace those or not. There are also a few punch list items from PennDOT, mainly related to some fine tuning of the signals. So the contractor does have a punch list of items they need to work through. We're still withholding payment for 150% of the value of all of those items. And they should be finishing, I think, soon, now that the weather has broken. So we'll get in touch with them and push on them to get that work done here before we get too far into the spring.
That brings us to our consent agenda. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, the agenda as presented is approved. Moving forward, brings us to our reports of committees and liaisons, starting with public safety.
Thank you. We continue the conversation around Country Club Hills and the speeding issue that we've seen for quite some time. The next step for us is to obtain an updated traffic control study proposal with mitigation matters that we can consider. And that is actually an updated version, given that East Pennsboro has decided to decline their participation in addition to the joint partnership agreement that we have in place to enforce both sides of that area. Additionally, for Market and 31st, the intersection there, that conversation continues in terms of options. It's based on the traffic that area sees around rush hour. There's a lot of considerations that need to be discussed, and so that conversation will continue at the next Public Safety Committee meeting to discuss everything that needs to come along with that, to include PennDOT and some other items. Next up, we talked about the Civil Service Commission, just in terms of Act 120 and the requirement changes that were brought before Council at the last meeting. There is one outstanding matter that we will continue to pursue in terms of cadets. And the committee took a look at a model from Harrisburg City, where there's sort of a declining model against the compensation for what a cadet might receive if they were to leave prior to a designated period of time. So the committee continues to consider that as well. And the solicitor, I believe, has provided proposed language for consideration that we'll be taking up at a future council meeting. One of the major topics that the committee discussed was the traffic concerns around Hoover Elementary and the efforts that both the CHPD and the borough have taken and will continue to undertake. I believe at the current time, the police department has moved the cones along the no parking areas in that vicinity. Officer Capers continues to be on site in the area as well to try to mitigate any of the traffic issues that's been observed. There's also been some relocation of some crosswalk sandwich boards to help with pedestrians, and then some additional training for the crossing guards to direct the pedestrians rather than the traffic. So there are a number of steps that police are taking. Those are just the ones that are occurring now. There are sort of a step 2 that we'll be undertaking as well, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Moving on to Public Works, please.
Okay, Public Works Committee met on March 4th. We have 2 action items today. They're both related to municipal. We have received acceptable bids for the commercial gas stove. That is $578. And for the Atlas Post Driver, that is $1,050. So that is the first action item, to approve the sale. at those prices. The second action item is to advertise two new items, which are an emergency generator and a mower, snow blower. Those are no longer in use. And in addition, at Public Works, we keep talking about compost grinding and disposal. Still evaluating options, so we had an outside company come and remove some waste for offsite grinding that cost $21,000. And we anticipate to have to do something similar again in the fall. Also, Lester attended a meeting on February 20th with various municipalities about a proposal of using the county grinder, which is currently located at Hampden Township. This proposal would necessitate the formation of an intermunicipal authority. And after considering all the pros and cons of this arrangement, we have decided not to pursue it, as it's also probably not financially feasible. So we are still looking at the best possible option to to grind and dispose our compost waste. That's all from Public Works.
Thank you, Louisa. Moving on to Community and Business Relations, please.
Okay, so get this up. Okay, Community and Business Relations met on February 18th to discuss the resolutions that are requested by the MSCH, LLC, and DCHA in support of being awarded a line item in the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. The funding is through Pennsylvania State's capital budget, and the resolutions state that the borough supports their request. Let's see. A goal of Community and Business Relations is to acquire funding to update Camp Hill Borough's comprehensive plan, which was last completed with Lemoyne and Wormleysburg boroughs in 2009. There are various funding sources, applications that we're applying for, and our next meeting is Tuesday the 18th at 4 p.m. That's my report.
Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. I have two action items today. The first action item is to request a waiver of the stadium manager and turf fees for an adult Special Olympics event. The Special Olympics would like to hold this on May 3rd in the stadium. It's a kind of smaller Special Olympics event. I think they said maybe 20 to 40 people or something. It wasn't that many people. But there's no cost to anyone to attend or participate, and Special Olympics looks for the communities that are hosts of this to waive their fees so that they don't have to pass on any cost to anyone else. So our committee discussed this at length, and we all decided that we would bring it to council to approve the waiver of the stadium manager and turf fees. So that's the first one. And the second action item is a request from the Frederickson Library for the Frederickson Library Summer Reading Program to donate a family pool membership. We've been doing this ever since I've been on council, and I think for years before that. It's one of their prizes. It's very exciting. And those are my only two action items. Other things to note. Seabrook Park Day Camp registration is full. So you missed it. It was March 4th. March 3rd, March 4th, sold out. However, we have lots of other programs available this summer, including two brand new ones, Art in the Park and Wagging Tail Training. Both of those programs have descriptions on the website, so check that out. As you can imagine, Wagging Tail's training is about dogs. Yeah, it's dog training. It's exciting. I'm excited for it. Also, for summer staffing, if you or children or grandchildren or whatever are interested, we're still conducting interviews now for summer positions, and we'll continue until all positions are filled. You can find the applications on our website, and you can mail or email those applications to alogar@campbellborough.com. As Sarah mentioned, the borough is winning an award for green and sustainable parks at the PRPS conference next week. That's next week? Yeah, Tuesday. Me and Jennifer are going to accept the award. We're very excited. And lastly, if you would like to participate in the Memorial Day Parade, registration is open. Oh, and one more. The Bunny Extravaganza is April 11th. Pre-registration is required by April 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Moving on then, I think, to Tom with Planning and Zoning.
Okay. You'll note in your packet that Colton has provided a monthly report on code enforcement. They've responded to 183 calls and complaints, made 576 calls, did 12 residential unit inspections, and issued 27 building, zoning, dumpster, stormwater, and shade tree permits. The rental inspection process is continuing without any issues I've heard of. The full committee met February 19th. We first had Lester, Public Works Director, meet with us to continue discussion of the stormwater problem related to sump pumps. And there's already in the code, as I understand it, that sump pumps should not discharge into the sewage system, but a lot of them do. And Lester can kind of figure out where some of the excess water is coming from, but the question is, what do we do about that? We don't want a sump pump police force knocking on doors and so on. So the committee discussed that. What should we do? And here's what we came up with. At the point of sale of a residence, there should be a sump pump inspection. It would fit into the usual way that houses are sold. And if the sump pump is pumping into the sewer, the change is actually fairly simple and not very expensive. So we thought that would be a first stab at this problem. Secondly, I just would comment that Public Works is in the process of replacing manhole covers, old manhole covers in the country club area that have holes in them. They're so heavy, you have to stick a device in to lift them up. But those holes allow stormwater to flow into the sewer system. So they're in the process of replacing those manhole covers. And this process of monitoring will continue to see how we do with stormwater, because it's a serious problem. If anybody knows any of the history, which I won't go into, it's a big deal. So that's that issue. We got a request from ADM Mills that was referred here to by Mike for an extension of their development project, a one-year extension. They want to demolish the silo and rebuild, but they ran into some new design issues or whatever, and they would like to have more time. We're very comfortable with that, and we're going to recommend that as an action item to approve that. Sarah mentioned about the feedback, what's going on with codification. I won't go into that in any depth, but there were 173 questions that were raised, and it's I think, a laborious process that Colton and Sarah will bring to the committee from time to time. And you want it to be done by June, is that what you said? Okay.
They want us to be done by June, so we will be
Okay.
done by June.
But it's a necessary project. We also have a request for a 30-day extension for the 725 Vista Drive subdivision plan. We're very comfortable with that. We're recommending approval of that as an action item. And finally, just to mention, we're going to hopefully vote on it tonight, the special events ordinance with council has had a month to look at. So we're encouraging approval of that as an action item tonight. The next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, March 19 at 8:15. And if anybody follows the schedule, in April, our usual date is on Good Friday, so we're going to bump it forward to the next Friday, the 25th, 8:15, the usual time. And that's my report.
Thank you, Tom. Moving on to Administration and Finance, Mercedes.
So just wanted to reiterate that Jared left us today. It was his last day, so super big bummer. The search is ongoing for a replacement for our finance director. So hopefully in the next meeting or so, we would have hired somebody. All right, so I have a couple of items for your consideration today. One is to discuss the application to municipal opportunities for retrofits and energy efficiency, so the MORE loan, for the installation of solar panels and energy efficient windows in the borough building. So as a reminder, this is to pay for the interest of the loan. And it's financed through the National Energy Improvement Fund. From what we understand, even though it has federal funds, the money is available. It's been dispersed, and it's available for us to get. So that's good news. The other thing that I have is discuss the advertisement of the RFP for banking services. So I know we had conversations last time about it. Kind of the new thing is that our finance director is not here anymore. So just wanted to hear if you had any questions, open for discussion.
I would just comment that I just wonder if this is the right time to put out an RFP in view of the change of staff. Because a new person would come in, if they have the old bank to work with, there'll be some structure in place. So could we postpone that a little bit? I think it's a reasonable thing to do, but right now might not be the best time to do it.
I agree with Tom.
Anybody? Tim? Elisa?
Yeah, we can talk about the timing of it. I think it's more important for me, just like anything, to evaluate, investigate, determine, and then prove out the value of such an exercise. The thing that I would ask council to consider is a reevaluation of what that timing might look like. We have some unknowns in terms of a vacancy that it's known, right? But what I wouldn't want to do is to put it off into a date uncertain. And so that's my request.
Okay, so my question comes, and I've thought a lot about this, and it makes sense in theory that we might do this. But then I was thinking today on a really, really, really small scale. I've had my bank for like decades, and I don't every couple of years go out and go like, gee, I wonder if I could find a better bank. Because it would also have to include making all the work that I would have to do worth it, right? Like the accounts that I have, and then any payments that go out, anything that comes in, and my credit card. Like, there's just so much different, like with my bank, that personally it would have to be a heavy lift, right? I don't want someone who goes, well, I'll give you 2% more interest. or 1%, or whatever. Like, it would have to be comprehensive. And I don't know that I feel that unless we were having problems with our institution, that it would be worth it. I feel like it would just be like checking a box and saying, hey, we're going to look at this, but there's really no way that it could be good enough that we would take all of this time and all of this energy. And it doesn't mean that it's not worth it if it were really a great thing, but it would really have to be a giant improvement. So I kind of feel like I don't know if I even want to table it. I'm okay with saying I don't see the point in it. That's where I'm at.
Well, we already voted for it, so we'd have to have another vote.
No.
Yeah.
Well, just to clarify, the motion that we took last meeting was just to provide some sort of assurance that the committee was moving in the right direction, and there was agreement that the committee should move forward. And the RFP that was included in last month's meeting was just a draft, and then that has since been reviewed and changed. So the motion.
Any motion related to it, one way or another, do we?
The motion
Yeah, it would be to advertise.
is 11K. The motion tonight would be to advertise the RFK, the RFP.
Could we put that, I agree with Tim that we shouldn't just make it indefinite if the majority of the board wants to proceed, but could we say 6 months from now, or do you put a
I mean,
timeframe on it?
I don't want to make it, election related, but I feel like the board, a significant amount of the board is going to turn over before then, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense if the RFP is being held out while we hire a new finance director, get them onboarded, get them figuring out how all of the systems and funds work. That's already past the election.
That makes sense.
So I feel like it's a matter for the next council, and I hate to say it like that, but like, that's the way it feels to me, is like, if there's gonna be a lot of turnover on council, there's going to be a whole new set of opinions, and I don't think we should do anything before then, because number one, it's kind of moot, because I wouldn't want a brand-new finance director to then be like, oh, okay, we have to change everything, or, potentially change everything. And then two, the economy's a little uncertain at this moment, and I think that the uncertainty in the economy means that, fees and interest rates and stuff like that you might get guarantees on in banks is a moving target right now. That's my opinion.
I concur with the sentiments that Emily has just shared, as well as others. I think given the departure of our finance director and the impending hiring of a new director, combined with concerns that we've already heard from staff, one of whom is trying to carry the load for Jared while he is not with us. So I would agree that I do not think that this is the appropriate time to advertise a new RFP.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
We can consider that as our last action item.
Okay, all right.
I would just note that in the packet, you did and do have a legal reviewed RFP that could go out for advertisement, either as written, or you could change the date in it if someone wanted to propose changing the dates to postpone it, but have a date certain that's associated with it. So that's provided for your consideration, that staff prepared for you.
I think from what I'm hearing is the concern is putting a date, right? It looks like this year is not what a few people want. And I don't know if I'm comfortable putting a date for the new council to have to do it.
Exactly.
Do we have any other comments or questions before we continue? No? Okay.
Just to mention, there's no catastrophe, there's no awful thing going on.
No,
right now,
the borough is very happy with the current bank, but I think what, Tim's original point when we started this process is like we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of the borough's money and we're getting the best interest rate. But it does seem like with the departure of our finance director, it's just not going to be the right time. But we'll get to the voting piece of it. Any other questions? Our next finance and administration, admin and finance meeting is March 24th at 4:30.
Thank you, Mercedes. Moving on to our liaison reports, beginning with the Borough School District report.
I was enjoying the preamble there. There was no meeting this past month, and I'm not sure if we had another meeting scheduled at this point.
It's like April 26th or
April 20
something like that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll firm that up and then provide that date for the next joint meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Moving on to Estelle.
Yeah, so we are about to enter the 4th marking period, and with that, also spring sports have begun. So tomorrow, track has a scrimmage meet. I'm not sure where it is, but I know it's like 30 minutes away, so people are kind of upset for leaving school early. Wrestling, Alicia Hidalgo and Keely Nunn were the first girls in the Camp Hill girls wrestling history to reach the state rounds. And during the PIAA wrestling tournament in Hershey, Noah Doy placed 4th. Man pageant was on February 21st, and they raised a total of $20,358.31. And then Minithon was also... Oh, yeah, so Man Pageant is a Minithon fundraiser where a ton of senior boys do a pageant, and it's funny, and it's one of the most popular fundraisers. And then Minithon was on March 1st, and in total, we raised $110,845.88, which is our second most ever. And then on the same day, we had National History Day, which I think around 4 groups made it to like states, I'm pretty sure, and they placed in various categories. And then for the next school year, we have 3 new Key Club officers. I'm pretty sure it's like the 9th and 10th grade liaisons, and then there's 2 project developers, so that's exciting. Yeah, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Estelle. Moving on to the Stormwater Authority.
A very short report. The Stormwater Authority did not meet.
Very short. Moving on to the Sustainability Committee.
Yes, most of the committee met February 13th, and we had the privilege of having Josh Hooper attend. Josh Hooper is a resident of the borough who has a lot of experience with environmental issues, and he's a potential new member of the Sustainability Committee, and he was able to make some good contributions to our discussions. As usual, we looked at goals and how progress we're making, and Sarah noted that she's making an attempt to reach out to DEP to see if we could get usage data of our electricity and energy usage to see if we have impacted that over time. So we'll see what comes of that. The group discussed having the borough join the ICLEI. I had to look up what that meant. International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. It's the first and largest global network of local governments devoted to solving the world's most intractable sustainability challenges, unquote. But it would cost $1,200 to join, and we sort of tabled it because we're not certain, and Sarah's not certain that we would make use of that membership at this time. Sarah also talked about tonight talked about the MORE project, the grant application, which apparently that money is there. But other sources of grants from private companies, such as PPL, was mentioned as a possible source of funding for LED lights for traffic signals, for example. So we're exploring those options as well. The group acknowledged that funding from at the federal level may not be coming in the future, so we'll have to deal with that as time goes on. The Choose Camp Hill Use Simulator project has concluded, but the map is still available on our website. We've had no feedback recently from the Community Choice Aggravation Project. It is aggravation.
It's aggravating, yeah.
But it's in the hands of
Tell
the...
us how you really feel.
Yeah, it's in the hands of the state PUC at this point, so we'll see what comes of that. Sarah mentioned that we hired a new person that will help with Sustainability PA. We discussed our past public education efforts. We had 3 speakers in. They were wonderful speakers, but it was sparsely attended, and it's on the edge of embarrassment when people come in and you have 6 people in the audience. So we decided to put that project on hold. We can revisit that in the future. And finally, we talked more about how do you get commercial properties to buy into solar. The difficulty is that who owns the Boskov giant complex? It's a big corporation out of the state, and they charge rent. And so they're not really tied into, they don't care much about the energy usage because it's passed on to the renter. So we just articulated that problem. I'm not sure how we're going to proceed on that, but we would like commercial properties to also begin to consider solar because it's not just good for the environment, but it saves money. And that's the biggest selling point. So we're going to continue to look at that and hopefully make contact with commercial building owners, et cetera. The next meeting of the committee is tomorrow at 12 noon, and I'd encourage everybody who's interested to attend. It's an alive, very dynamic group. And that's my report.
Thank you, Tom. Moving on to the Downtown Camp Hill Association.
I hope someday soon I'm going to have one of those downtown coordinator reports again, because they were great. I didn't see one.
It's there.
Anyways, I love you, Beth. Never saw it. Never saw it. So Beth is awesome. I'm very excited to have her on our staff. And she made me a downtown coordinator update report that I never saw, which is my fault, not yours. And so anyways, I think the other big news is at the most recent DCHA meeting, I believe that they hired a market manager too. So DCHA has been, in this holding pattern waiting to have staff to actually do things. So we're very happy that Julie kept the ship sailing forward while they got together and figured out who to hire for all of the things. So the positions are filled, thank God. Okay, downtown events, now that Beth made me this report that I never saw. Spring Fling is Saturday, April 12th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's going to be a cotton candy cart, seed planting, live music, face painting, and then plein air art walk is going to be Saturday, May 17th from 10 to 3. There is a new event that has been added this year to the plein air art walk, which is the Art Walk, a 5K starting at Neighborson Smith and following the Goddard Trail. A shoe drive will accompany this event. So as I said, we got a new farmer's market manager, and the market opens May 13th. And the new market manager's name is Amanda Kelly. So go to the market, get excited. It's going to be another good year. And there's so much interesting information on here. If only I'd read it. I walked in the meeting today and I said to Jennifer, I feel wholly unprepared for this meeting. So sorry, everyone. The Business and Career Center within the library is interested in continuing the library roundtables that they've been having. Beth Taylor, a busy lady now in Camp Hill, will continue to host one once a month for 3 months called, what is it called? Let's give them something to talk about, P&R and marketing. So that's exciting. And that's more meetings that haven't had the greatest attendance. There's lots of really interesting things you can learn if you just go out and look at everyone's websites and find out what they're offering. Everyone's putting together really interesting stuff. A grant application has been submitted through Main Street Matters funding for an updated ULI study. ULI is Urban Land Institute, so that's exciting. And a final note, if you aren't signed up for our email newsletter, what are you waiting for? campbellborough.com/communications. Sign up for all of the communications so you don't miss our next really cool thing that we have going on.
Thank you. Moving on to our Frederickson Library Board report, please.
I know, and I really have nothing going on, except for the business roundtables. Actually, there's always a lot going on at Frederickson, but I don't have anything specific to discuss about it. So sign up for their newsletter, and then you can hear all about the great things that they're having. That's all my...
Thank you. The Capital Region Council of Governments?
We meet Monday, so no news until next
Meeting.
And Camp Hill Bird Town?
Oh,
How
it's
did that
not on
not
here.
end up on there? I think we should, yes. Do you guys want Bird Town on the agenda every month? Nope. Diana, you didn't even say yes, and you're on the committee. So Bird Town Committee met yesterday. Everyone was able to take part in that great backyard bird count, and committee positions were filled, and discussion was had about our future goals. We are requesting to be part of the DCHA's Plein Air this spring, and in the summer, we would like to be part of Stormfest, July 23rd. Yeah, so don't miss those two things. Please follow us on the Camp Hill Borough website, and we are also on Facebook. Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 8th at 3 p.m. Everyone is welcome.
Can I make a Birdtown comment?
If it's nice.
Last week I was here at the Borough Building and I saw a bald eagle fly overhead. It was the coolest thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to our second round of public comment. If you wish to offer a public comment, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, please, and keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. Any takers? No. Okay. Thank you. Then that moves us on to our action items for the evening, starting with item 11A. Is there a motion and a second to approve the sale of the commercial gas stove for $578 and an Atlas post driver for $1,050?
Second.
Lisa moves, Emily seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion to approve the sale passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to advertise an emergency generator and a mower snow blower on Municipid? Second. Louisa moves, Mercedes seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2025-04 to support a request for an award of redevelopment assistance under the Capital Budget Itemization Act for a restaurant at 2211 Market Street under the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program?
So moved. Ooh, second.
Emily moves, Michelle seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2025-05, supporting the Downtown Camp Hill Association's request for an itemization in the next Pennsylvania Capital Budget Itemization Act for economic development projects in the Camp Hill Business District? Michelle moves, Mercedes seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to approve a request to waive the stadium manager and turf fees for the Adult Special Olympics event on May 3rd, 2025? Second. Tom moves, Emily seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to approve a request to donate a resident rate family pool membership to the Frederickson Library Summer Reading Program? So moved. Michelle moves, Emily seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 2025-01 to set standards for special events? Tom moves, Lisa seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to approve a one-year extension for the ADM Mills Land Development Plan? So moved. Tom moves, Lisa seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to approve a 30-day extension for the 725 Vista Drive subdivision plan? Second. Tom moves, Emily seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to authorize an application to the Municipal Opportunities for Retrofits and Energy Efficiency loan for the installation of solar panels and energy-efficient windows in the Borough Building? So moved. Second. Mercedes moves, Louisa seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just want a brief correction. Earlier, I stated that this was to pay the interest on the loan, but this is the actual loan. We already got the grant to pay the interest. That makes sense. Cool.
Thank you for the clarification. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion and a second to authorize the advertisement of a request for proposals for banking services? So moved. Tim moves. Is there a second? Louisa seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, I'm going to call for a roll call vote.
You want me to call? Mercedes Evans?
No.
Thomas Fink? No. Michelle Forbes?
Nay.
Jennifer Hoover?
Nay.
Tim Jackson? Aye. Louisa Lasova? Aye. Emily Smith?
Nay.
Thank you, Sarah. The motion fails by a vote of 5-2. That brings us to our last period of public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to offer public comment? Okay. Are there any closing remarks by council members?
Yes, I just want to say I really enjoy Estelle's updates. I'm really glad that you, because I don't have children, so it's good to know what's going on in the school, so thank you.
I would say I have children, I have a child, and I don't know as much as, I knew half of what she was saying, and I was like, really? I never heard about that. So good job, Estelle.
I would just comment that we look forward to working with the Historic Society for the 250th. So there'll be more discussion about that, I'm sure, in the future. Thanks for coming.
Yep. And I was going to say, I think our former junior council person, Josiah, is at swimming state today. Yes, I saw that. Alrighty, thank you everyone in the audience and watching online. We appreciate your attendance and participation. Please come again. There being no other business, the meeting stands adjourned.